Okay, it's now 4:17. My name is Dr. Janet Dean, and I'm an NIHR clinical lecturer at the University of Manchester, and also an honorary postdoctoral researcher at Imperial College London. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce this session and to be joined by my associate moderator, Dr. Siobhan Steins, who is also a clinical academic and research fellow at Keele University, and also an advanced musculoskeletal physiotherapy in a spinal interface service in the Haywood Hospital in Stoke-on-Trent. We'll get started with the presentation straight away. And first off, it's my pleasure to present Daniela Serbuk with her presentation. Thank you.
Hi everybody. My name is Dr. Daniela Serbuk, and I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Psychology at Rutherford University in London, where I teach health psychology and a few more modules. And I also conduct research, mostly focusing on the role of psychology in chronic pain. I'm a member of the Society for Back Pain Research, and until recently, I was also a committee member of the Society. I'm extremely grateful that in 2019, I was awarded a travel fellowship, which enabled me to visit a pain research lab in the US. More specifically, I visited the Biobehavioral Pediatric Pain Lab, which is jointly led by Dr. Laura Simons, who is based at the Stanford University Medical Center, and by Dr. Christine Seberg, who is based at the Boston Children's Hospital, which is a pediatric teaching hospital for Harvard University Medical School. So I was really lucky to be able to visit both places. So the topic of my research for that particular visit was chronic back pain and chronic pain in general in young adults. I was in particular interested to explore any possibilities to do some research concerning university students, because although there is quite a lot of research in pediatric pain, focusing on adolescents and children and young adults as well, but there is really little research focusing specifically on university students. And being an educator, a lecturer, this is really important and interesting to me. And so this was my main focus and aim. During my visit, I gave a presentation on my research in both institutions. I also met with individual lab members to discuss potential collaborations. I attended a seminar, a pain seminar, and I was a guest visitor at a small pain conference in Boston. I also observed and took part in their pain research and experiments. So you can see me on the second picture, where I am sort of screaming, and this is because my hand is being immersed in an ice-cold water container. So that's what I did during my visit there. So what have I achieved? Well, at the moment, I was able to start a collaboration with the Boston lab with Dr. Christine Seberg. And we started working on a particular research about a year and a half ago. And now we are joined by a collaborator from University of Bath, Dr. Emma Fisher, as well as a collaborator from the Simmons University in the US, Dr. Elizabeth Donovan. And the topic is pain adjustment in university or college students. And this is a large-scale international project within which we examine a number of factors relating to how university students cope with their pain and how they function. So they are looking specifically at a number of pain variables, such as pain interference, intensity, duration, location, etc., anxiety, depression, self-efficacy, perfectionism, helicopter parenting, university support, and many, many more variables. Currently, we are collecting data in the UK and US. And so far we have recruited, and we have around 400 valid responses. Data is being collected online, and we aim to finish our data collection by June 2021. Interestingly, we haven't obtained, or we didn't want to obtain any funding for this study. We decided to involve our students. So a number of undergraduate and postgraduate students are taking part and being involved on this large project, and they're doing this as part of their postgraduate or undergraduate project or dissertation. So that's basically what I've done, what I've achieved, and I would like to once more say thank you to the Society for enabling me to visit this pain lab and for this wonderful experience. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Bye for now. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Kika Constantino. I'm a spinal consultant physiotherapist and a clinical lecturer at Keele University. In 2019, I was fortunate enough to be given a travel fellowship award by the Society of Back Pain Research, which supported a feasibility study looking into the use of spinal epidural injections in disc-related sciatica in order to understand practice-level data, form research collaborations to support future research in the subject. To put this project in context, you will recall that the updated NICE guidance on the subject recommended research on the clinical and cost-effectiveness of image-guided injections versus non-image-guided for this population, taking into account that there was no strong evidence to support a specific type of epidural injections. On the basis of that, our research team submitted a research proposal to the NIHR Health Technology Assessment for a non-inferiority randomized controlled trial to investigate clinical and cost-effectiveness of transforaminal epidural injections versus ultrasound-guided caudal epidurals for this population. Although the research proposal was not successful, the HTA advised us to complete the feasibility work and resubmit. The SBPR award supported this work, and the aims were to find out whether clinicians and clinical sites were interested and able to participate and deliver a future RCT, collect clinical level data about numbers and potentially eligible patients for future RCT, and form the research collaborations with clinical sites that are absolutely necessary for considering and delivering such a project. In 2019, 6 sites expressed interest and formally supported the fellowship, and a further 4 sites expressed interest at a later point. We asked participating sites and clinicians to give us some information over a period of 3 months, either prospectively or retrospectively, on the types and numbers of injections they did for this population. A total of 6 sites participated in the discussions and provided data. 5 of those were interested to participate in a future RCT. In terms of individual clinicians' willingness to take part in the study and recruit patients, these varied between 40 to 100%. And as regards healthcare resources for the 2 different types of injections, the consensus opinion is that ultrasound-guided caudal epidurals are cheaper compared to the transforaminal injections. In terms of numbers, over a period of 3 months, collectively, 540 injections were performed of any type, with 320 patients being potentially eligible for a future RCT. The majority of the injections performed were transforaminals. However, about a third of all injections were done via the caudal route, using either X-ray guidance or ultrasound guidance. If 1 in every 4 eligible patients consented to participate in a future RCT, the above numbers will translate in 26 patients per month from the 5 sites that were willing to participate. So what did we learn from the feasibility study? Caudal epidurals are used relatively often, and a number of these procedures are currently ultrasound guided. The buy-in from clinicians and sites and the sustained commitment from clinical sites seemed variable, and this is a quite important point for any future plans for delivering an RCT. And based on the feasibility data gathered here, an external pilot study design or a formal feasibility study will be the most appropriate route for informing future RCT plans. The research team at Kiel are currently working on that. Many thanks for your kind attention, and I would like to thank all the participating sites and clinicians that helped us with this project and the SBPR for supporting it.
Thank you, Kika. What a great and inspiring presentation. And now to Dr. Jerry Draper-Roddy.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry Draper-Roddy. I'm a senior research fellow at the University College of Osteopathy. And thanks to SBPR, I was able to have a fellowship and to visit 2 universities for my project. So I looked at how we could develop behavioral measures to evaluate the effect of biopsychosocial training for practitioners who manage patients with low back pain. So when we train practitioners to the biopsychosocial model, we can assess the effectiveness of the training different ways. So we can look at the attitudes of the practitioners towards back pain. And for this, there are now fairly reliable questionnaires available, including the ABS or the PABS ones. Or we can look at practitioners' behaviors. And for that, we can ask them to report themselves their behavior, or we can ask patients to report the practitioner's behavior, or we can observe directly the behavior through attending the appointment or video recording the appointment. And that, on a sort of analysis and also data collection point of view, can be quite onerous. And finally, another way of looking at it is directly looking at patients regarding either the behavior or their outcomes with pain or disability to look if the training of practitioners changed their outcomes. So in my doctoral work, I trained practitioners and I looked at their attitudes, but also the reported behavior they mentioned through qualitative work. And the aim of this fellowship was to try to see going forward how we could continue this work and maybe look at observed behavior of practitioners or look at patient outcomes. So when I got the fellowship, this paper was published on developing a biopsychosocial scale to assess healthcare practitioners. So I thought maybe my fellowship was not required anymore. But that was, in fact, a very interesting paper to be published that helped to have lots of discussions. So I went to visit the Center for Precise Rehabilitation at Birmingham. And the aim of this center is to identify personalized management approaches for spinal pain. And they're really looking at bridging practice with research. So I met with several of their team members, and they were very kind to give me lots of their time. And we had lots of very valuable discussions regarding non-specific low back pain and how useful it can be, those sort of words. We looked at the paper I mentioned just before and trying to work out what the difference might be regarding behavior, competencies, and also maybe the risk and the bias in the questionnaire regarding social desirability. And finally, we looked at how we could try to see, when developing a tool, how easy it would be for that tool to be used in research, but also in clinical encounters. My second visit was at Yale University, where Dr. Noah Ben-Ami very kindly invited me and my supervisor, Mr. Stephen Vogel, and we went with Professor Tamar Pincus to their department. And Noah had done work with both patients and practitioners, looking at their behaviors and measuring their behaviors. So that was really interesting to see how she did it and the tools she used and how she measured those things. And that led to basically the thinking of, it's likely to be more meaningful to look at patient outcomes. So the outcome of this fellowship was that I applied for a grant that I won, which I was very happy, for a 2-year project using single case experimental design, which is currently paused, but will look at the impact of osteopathic care on patients receiving either biopsychosocially informed or usual osteopathic care, and looking at patient behavior and also patient pain and disability outcomes. So thank you very much again to SBPR for this opportunity. That's been a very valuable experience.
Thank you very much, Jerry. It seems like that went well and you visited a few different places. Now we're going to Dr. Leanne Wood and see what she used her travel fellowship for.
Good afternoon. My name is Leanne Wood and I am a clinical research fellow at Keele University, where I've just finished my PhD investigating treatment targets and outcomes in exercise for low back pain. I'm also the spinal ESP team lead for Nottingham University Hospital's NHS Trust's spinal practitioner team. And I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Canadian Travel Fellowship I had the opportunity to enjoy and embark on, thanks to the Society for Back Pain Research, and some of my insights and reflections. So I spent my time on the eastern coast of Canada for 3 weeks. The first 2 weeks I spent in the dark pink island of Nova Scotia in Halifax, where I spent time with Dr. Jill Hayden from Dalhousie University. Now, you might be familiar with the name Dr. Jill Hayden, as she was the lead author of the Cochrane Review of Exercise Trials for Low Back Pain. At the end of this 2 weeks, I then went across to Quebec City in Quebec, where I attended the International Forum for Back and Neck Pain Research in Primary Care and presented at this conference. My first 2 weeks was at Dalhousie University, and it wasn't all work, there was some play. We got to enjoy the lovely summer sunshine and see some of the sights around the island. As you can see, Jill was a fantastic host. And this is her team on the right of epidemiologists and researchers who work at the Department of Community Health and Epidemiology. I gained invaluable mentorship during this time, and Jill was kind enough to provide critique of my systematic review that I performed for my PhD. She also collaborated with me on the consensus workshops that I held at the Forum Forum conference, and has been a valuable partner in this exercise. And we were able to gain a further publication by analysing the Cochrane dataset exercise trials to assess whether they had similar findings to my PhD research. After this time in Quebec City, again, the summer weather followed us, and it was wonderful to have summer for another week. I was amazed at the opportunity to be at such a small and niche conference, really, where I met so many people that I had read papers by, and really met the bigwigs of back pain research, it felt like. I was fortunate to present an oral of the work I'd performed in my PhD regarding treatment targets, and host another consensus workshop involving the participants of the conference to gain consensus on what the treatment targets for exercise were. And obviously this has led to further international networking and collaboration. So the outputs of my travel fellowship included firstly the co-production of a small project from Jill and her team, where we looked at the trials included in the Cochrane database and whether they specified the treatment targets of exercise interventions, and the answer was they didn't. From the forum workshop that we held regarding consensus of treatment targets of exercise for persistent non-specific low back pain, this paper has been accepted to physiotherapy, and I'm glad to say is under review at the moment for corrections. and hopefully will be in press soon. I was fortunate to be included on a further grant by Jill and her team, looking at what works for whom, an individual participant data network meta-analysis of exercise for persistent low back pain. And this has also led to Jill being a mentor and included on one of my UK Research and Innovation Future Leader Fellowship applications to again investigate this further with regard to exercise and low back pain. So overall, it was a fantastic opportunity to have this time and funded opportunity to collaborate and attend an amazing conference. And I can only thank the participants of the forum workshop, the Society for Back Pain Research for the opportunity, the mentorship I received from Dr. Jill Hayden, and the Faculty of Medicine at Keele University for funding my PhD, as well as my PhD supervisors who I would say I wouldn't have got to where I am today without their support and mentorship. So many thanks to all of you who've helped me along my journey. It's been wonderful so far. Many thanks.
Thank you, Leanne, and thank you for reminding us what we're all missing. Okay, so next to Dr. Philip Poilo, who's going to be presenting his work.
Hello, my name is Philip Poilo and I'll be speaking about the travel fellowship I was awarded from the Society for Back Pain Research and how that helped me and continues to help in my research as a PhD student at the University of Limerick. So to start off on the background of my research, I'm working with intervertebral disc and intervertebral disc degeneration. The tissue itself is made up of two parts, the inner almost gel-like nucleus pulposus and the outer more fibrous annulus fibrosus. Under a load, the tissue generates hydrostatic pressure in the nucleus constrained by tensile forces in the outer annulus. However, in degeneration, an altered external matrix can lead to these forces becoming disrupted, leading to a reduction of disc height and ultimately lower back pain. I'm researching into the fundamental science behind what goes on here, the mechanotransduction pathways involved, as well as the biophysics of the disc tissue itself. So the aim of this is to better understand the problem of degeneration and back pain, and then to ultimately inform other future studies on preventative and regenerative measures. I applied for the Society for Back Pain Research Travel Fellowship to really kickstart the project. I'm based in the Bernal Institute at the University of Limerick, but our research group was focused more on the modelling aspects of the intervertebral disc, while the wider group here was looking at the experimental side of other tissue types. So I was the first in our research group there to start the experimental side on specifically intervertebral disc tissue. So the travel fellowship allowed me to visit and to work with Christine Lemet's research group at Sheffield Hallam University, a lab that was already well established in the area. Under the fellowship, I was able to travel to Sheffield Hallam for 2 separate months, the first being March 2019. This first trip was planned to learn the practicalities involved in working with intervertebral disc tissue. So this involved everything from initial dissection of the bovine tissue and cell extraction, cell culture techniques scaled up to 3D culture and alginate and tissue explants, through to immunohistochemistry techniques. So this initial trip allowed me to learn all these techniques and best practice of working with the disc, beyond just adapting what the other groups in UL were already doing, saving me months of learning and optimizing on my own part. And I was even able to start off some of the more basic experiments on cell signaling here. So when I returned to Limerick after this month, I brought all this know-how and experience with me, which really fast-tracked my PhD project and allowed me to move on to more of the meaningful experiments much more quickly. By learning these firsthand from a well-established lab group, on top of being able to start experiments more quickly, I was able to design these experiments much more competently and to get the most out of them. The second trip took place a few months later in September. This time I travelled to Sheffield Hallam University to make use of the biomechanical loading equipment they had and to perform meaningful experiments on disc cell mechanotransduction. Using equipment that allowed for more physiological loading conditions here was really a huge boost to my research, and it gave me the freedom to look at novel aspects of disc cell mechanotransduction that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to look at had I stayed just working in UL. The results of these experiments were really interesting, and while the month at Sheffield wasn't long enough to complete all the testing I would have liked, the collaboration between my group at the University of Limerick and Sheffield Clam University is continuing. So these experiments and all the downstream testing is ongoing. With Travel Fellowship in this aspect, I'm able to bring together the experimental expertise from Sheffield Clam with the modelling experience in Limerick and make this project really exciting. As a whole, the SBPR Travel Fellowship was a fantastic experience, both for my research and for me as a researcher. It allowed me to quickly come to grips with the practicalities involved in the experimental side and to make use of equipment that I wouldn't have been able to access otherwise. But I was also able to experience working in another well-established lab, which was a huge boost for my research career. That helped me become a more independent researcher, have a wider experience outside my own research group, and to start collaborations with other researchers in the field. So I'd highly recommend anyone to apply for the Travel Fellowship. So again, a huge thank you to the Society for Backpain Research for the opportunities that the Travel Fellowship brought. I'll be happy to chat with anyone interested about the fellowship or take any questions on the research side. Just send me an email. Thank you.
Janet, you're on mute.
That was bound to happen, wasn't it? I was just saying how inspiring it is to see what develops out of small seed funding, and really this collaboration between UKSSB and the SBPR is just extremely valuable from what we can hear in terms of the mentorship, the collaboration, the research output, the partnership. You know, it's just been amazing. And although because of COVID and the limitations with travel, we had to suspend it this year. We hope to run it again shortly once COVID restrictions allow. But now I'd like to hand over to Siobhan for any questions, and please feel free to post any questions in the chat.
Thank you, Janet. Nafis has put a comment which echoes what you said as well, and definitely my thoughts listening to that is just the impressive output from these travel fellowships. So Nafis said it's great, these fellowships have been able to result in researchers being published in peer-reviewed journals and led to successful grant applications. And I think you just saw the scope as well of how people have used these fellowships. Just to give for anyone not familiar with the SBPR fellowships, as Janet said, they were on hold last year, but if you look at the kind of an example of the application online, you can apply for up to £4,500. Now that may change as circumstances change, and the remit is that with that you do as the fellows do here, is you present at SBPR, and the costs are included in your application to do that. You give a report, a 500-word report within 6 weeks of completing, and you obviously submit all your receipts as well. And perhaps I could just ask the panel. Let me see if I can see you. We've got your videos on. We've got Daniela there, Leanne, Philip.
Just while we're waiting for that, I might just advertise our new Twitter site. So SBPR are now on Twitter at SBPR Official. And also our website is www.sbpr.info. So do get in touch if you wish to become a member of this multidisciplinary back pain research community.
Hello, Philip, Daniela, Liam. I was looking through the application form, but would you mind just giving the audience or anyone who's not familiar is how long it took you to build this application? Because there's quite a bit of planning involved. And Daniela, could I start with you, if you can remember?
Can you hear me? Yeah. If I can remember, yeah, it took a few months because I knew what I wanted to do, but I sort of had to plan what exactly I wanted to do and how to focus this application, how to put this application together. I was a bit worried because my topic is quite unusual. And, you know, it's paying university students, and many people ask, well, so what's the big deal about this? And we know that this population is increasing rapidly, and there is so little research focusing specifically on university settings, and yet these settings are very challenging for students, for young people who have pain, because for the first time in your life you become independent and remove yourself from a sheltered home life and you know, care that's been provided to you previously. So I thought this was a really interesting topic. So, and it was for me difficult to find anyone in the role that actually focuses on this type of research. I couldn't find any pain group focusing on this. So I looked at research groups that focus on pain in adolescents and young adults generally, and was able to identify the biobehavioral pain lab in the US, and then contacted them, emailed them and asked whether they would be willing to do something like this. And they said, yes, you know, this is really an explored area of research, come and visit us. And then when they said yes, I thought all was a smooth ride. I think the society was really open to this new idea, and I was really lucky to get the fellowship.
Lovely, thank you, Danielle. Philip, so they were just thinking about how long it took you to build the application and the planning.
Yeah, so I suppose the first thing I did was when I started first looking into the project, starting the PhD from the first year, I was looking to different avenues we could go down in terms of cell signaling and such. And I suppose talking to the supervisor, we agreed we needed to reach out further to get more expertise beyond our own group ourselves. So we started contacting, we looked online, we started contacting Christine Lemette's group in Sheffield, because they were doing really interesting things that we thought lined up with what we wanted to do in Limerick. So I went over for a weekend just to chat to Christine in person, had a look at the lab, and decided that Christine suggested that the SBPR travel fellowship could be ideal to kind of start things off. So from there then, it probably took a few weeks to put together the application, because it really, what I wanted to do was go in 2 different months to do different things. So it took me, you know, to really look ahead in time, a few months down the line, and plan out exactly what I wanted to do to make the most use out of it. So I suppose in all, it probably took 3 or 4 weeks to put together exactly what I wanted to do. But from that, it really enabled me to plan exactly what I was going to do and kind of get the most out of it. So it was worth the time putting into it, definitely.
Thank you, and that was obvious from your presentation. And Leanne?
I can't remember exactly, but I think at least a couple of months, because I had to again make contact with Jill Hayden's team, and I would say that was largely due to my supervisors who recommended that. You know, I don't think of my own bat I would have thought of it as an idea, but certainly it was from guidance and mentorship to suggest that. And once I had the okay from Jill's team, which was probably November, December, I think, and I think the call closed end of March, so probably 4 months of working up the application and figuring out all the small details.
Thanks, Leanne. And very envious looking at your photographs, the days of travel. Yeah, because one of the remits of the applications is that you need this confirmation from your host if you are doing a visit. So that obviously needs forward planning. Just pulling back up. So yes, join us on Twitter. Yes, so you obviously need to be a member of SBPR to be eligible for these fellowships. Lucy Dove, thank you, very inspiring stories, everyone. Is the fellowship for postdoc researchers or doctoral researchers only? I'm happy to answer that. It's for both. So any stage of your research career. Yeah, so if you're thinking of wanting to think of an idea and build, or if you're within your doctoral fellowship and you need that extra bit of funding, postdoc, and you can see from the presenters the range as well. I guess what it's not for is if you realise you're a bit short of funding with. That's right. Yeah, it's not a kind of a stop.
I'd like to ask a quick question. So, would you all recommend people apply for this fellowship?
Definitely. Definitely. It was really, really a great opportunity because I think it allowed us freedom to do what we wanted. I think often with these things, you are told what you need to do, but this was I felt very free to explore what I want to do with this. And obviously there must be an outcome. And actually at the time there wasn't a need for a very specific outcome. We had to present here and provide a report. And any outcomes were just like, good news. And all of us now have solid outcomes out of this.
Right.
So with that, there wasn't a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But I could go and explore something that was really little explored in the world of pain research. And, I was hoping for a good outcome and was really happy when my collaborators in the US, wanted to proceed and work with me. But there wasn't that pressure, I have to make sure we have a grant or we have a publication.
Yeah.
And in the end, we all have something very concrete out of this. But that was really, really lovely to have.
Yeah.
And Philip, just for you, that was, really you stepped out of your comfort zone there by applying from a different country and taking that leap of faith. What would you say to those who are just doing that and just trying things out? Was it an email you sent to the collaborator, or how did you make that first?
Yeah, so definitely stepping out of the comfort zone. It was a really out of the blue email was the first thing. Like Christine said in the last panel discussion, just send out an email, just go for it, and you never know what you get out of it. So, I mean, getting months of research and ongoing collaboration, what is it, a year on from that now? It's definitely worthwhile going for it, and even stepping outside like that and going for something new beyond the concrete research outputs we got from it. It just helped me as a researcher myself, getting all that new experience and interaction with other people in the field. I really can't emphasize enough how great it's been.
Leanne, where to next? What's the next plan? So you've used this pot of money to get a few papers out, and what's the next? What have your collaborations helped you to do next?
It's really set up. So I mean, I've got a really good relationship now with Jill's team, I'd say. As you can see, I'm on a grant with them, and they've looked at options to try and include me to do work for them, but I've just not had capacity at the moment to do unfunded work essentially at the moment. But Jill's now a mentor on a fellowship that I'll probably, if I'm unsuccessful with UKRI, I'll submit to NIHR. So I think that it's really created these long-lasting relationships, which is really fantastic. I think that I was a bit like Philip, where I sent an email to someone I didn't know at all, and I've left with really what feels like a lifelong kind of friendship / collaboration, which is really I can't thank anyone enough. It was such a good experience.
It set you in good stead. If there aren't any more questions, I may draw this to a close. I'm just wondering, is there anything else in the chat there?
Just a very resounding, I think, answer again to Lisa's questions. It's open to anyone, even profs can apply, clinicians. You don't have to be a researcher. So yeah, just keep an eye on the website and
Twitter.
And Twitter. Yes, you can draw us to a close, Janet.
Yes. Well, I'd just like to thank everybody for contributing so honestly and generously today. Your work is inspiring, and I know on my travel fellowship, when I was awarded it during my PhD, it made such a difference to the technologies I could now use and all of that. So it helped to enhance my PhD experience. But definitely it just shows, it's worth reaching out, it's worth stepping up and going for it. And I know some of the speakers weren't able to come to this session, so Kika or Jerry, but I also want to acknowledge their contributions today. And I'm going to draw this session to a close. And if you'd like to join us on Twitter at SBPR Official, or our website, www.sbpr.info, we'd love to hear from you. And thank you all very much for attending.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.